Ole Miss podcast starting December 13th. I'm here to tell you that you can subscribe now on Apple and Spotify, and I'll be sure to let you know the new YouTube link when it comes out. Listen to the show and hear a perspective that is completely different than those that are already out there. I know their world after 10 years in the media, and I also know the staff's world thanks to 3 years in the Manning Center. So subscribe now and hit the bell and get the reminder you need because you won't want to miss this. Hey, welcome to the Palmcast with Stephen Willis. We're going to start in a few minutes, but I want to tell you to hit up our social sites, retweet, share, comment, like, do all of that stuff. It can only help us out and it'll make the show even better. But we're getting ready to give you a lot of good Ole Miss information, and I just thought I would tell you that because the Palmcast is starting. Well, it's starting right now. Wait, no, that's a little early. It is starting right about now. All right. Happy Thanksgiving. Right here, we're in the Palmcast, the farewell tour. It ends December 3rd. We pick up with the, as you can see, Locked On Ole Miss podcast on December 13th. There are links. You can subscribe on Apple and on Spotify now. Do that. You do not want to miss the beginning of this. This is an interesting perspective, and it will be an excellent show. So do that for me, and we can work towards everything that's going on. First, before we get started, I want to tell you about Travel and Cruise World. What I've been trying to do the whole time is everybody needs a vacation. And these guys can provide a resource for you on the ground and still get you the same prices you can online. So give them a call, 1-800-330-7461, and use them as a resource and have that perfect vacation. It says Positively Ole Miss search, but it's actually Y'all's Conference Network. Do that. You can subscribe to the feed. Those are the podcasts that we are available on top of the Locked On stuff that we're talking about. We're on Apple and we're on Spotify as well. So search Locked On Ole Miss Podcasts on Spotify and on Apple, and they can help you out and hook you up. So that is what we have going on. Also, if you want to watch the show, you can catch us at the Stephen Willis. You can watch it at YCN_SEC. You can catch us on Y'all's Conference Network on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the bell. You'll not only know that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about. And of course, YCN_SEC on Twitch. So do that, and we are going to be good to go. Today on the show, we're going to talk about some of my favorite Egg Bowl moments and the things that just really stand out. Because today, honestly, I get to enjoy today. There's a lot of people that do not enjoy today. They're going to be bound up in knots, and they're going to be nervous all the way through it. I get to enjoy today. Today is fun. But I'll tell you some of my favorite moments and some memories that come back from my Ole Miss Mississippi State Egg Bowl experience. Also, we're going to preview the game tonight a little bit. We're going to talk about what's going on with that, keys to victory, things like that, how Ole Miss, what happens if Ole Miss wins, what happens if Mississippi State wins, things like that. So that is our podcast today. And in fact, we're probably going to start out with my favorite moments, and then we'll move on to the actual game preview tonight. The game's at 7:30 Eastern Time. 7:30 Eastern Time, and I need to do this real quick, so bear with me. Let's see. Forgot to do this and bring the weather forecast into the system because I'm super smart. Let's see. So why are you being difficult? Okay. All right, we'll talk about this a little bit. This is the weather forecast for the game while it is going on. So the window between 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock. And looking at that, I expect a sloppy game to start, honestly. The air raid. So this is even more of just looking at this, you assume that Ole Miss is going to start quick and Mississippi State is going to come out. Now, we could get to kickoff and it could be completely clear. and it could be absolutely clear, and that would be fine, great, whatever, however you want to say it. But there's a chance for this game to be sloppy at the beginning. You can see it getting colder. It's going to drop 10 degrees over the course of the game at least. So it has a chance to be a typical type Egg Bowl. Ole Miss is winners of 2 of the last 3 games in Starkville. So if anybody says that they're just going to take the home team, that's incorrect. The one Mississippi State win over that period was the Piss and the Miss in 2019 that changed college football. But Ole Miss won in 17, Ole Miss won in 15 as well. So they're trying to go for 3 or 4 in Starkville. So it's a weird dynamic in this series. Ole Miss won in 20, but they lost in 18, and they lost in 16. So the road team has been dominant in this series as of late until the last 2, the Piss and the Miss and the game in Oxford last year. Matt Corral, I think, is the better all-around quarterback. The NFL draft will prove that. He's got the tools to be effective and everything. He's getting more healthy. And health is going to be really important in this game, period. His legs, he's going to have to be the early season Matt Corral that the Heisman talk swirled about before he got injured. He's going to have to do that. You got 5 weeks until the bowl game. This needs to be special. Mississippi State does a thing to combat Ole Miss's tempo, by the way. Watch this game, and you'll see this has happened. When Ole Miss runs an inside zone play, let's say on first down they run an inside zone to Jerry and Ely that gains 4 yards, and they immediately jump on the line of scrimmage again. Mississippi State likes to bring both linebackers in a double A-gap blitz to blow up so another inside zone can't happen. That's something that I noticed last year, but that is how they fight tempo. Different teams have different ideas of what they want to do when it comes to tempo. Each time. Mississippi State's is attack. It's the Joe Lee Duns type stuff that Zach Arnett and that tree gets in. So you will see them basically playing a tight bear whenever we want to go tempo to try and blow that play up in the run game. I think Ole Miss is going to attack this by running some outside plays because Ole Miss saw this last year. This is when Mississippi State showed their hand. So I think you're going to see some jets. I think you're going to see some outside zone. And real similar to the way they ran the ball in the A&M game. You don't really want to run the ball because the middle is going to be clogged. It's a big game for Eli Acker. It's a big game for Orlando Amana and all those guards in the middle of the field. You need to really stand up to what's going to happen. This is going to be a physical game. Eli Acker is from Columbus. He gets this. He understands this. On the other side, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure they're going to be fine. Orlando Amana, this is his first time to be in this, so he is going to deal with a little bit of the surprise that comes from the Mississippi State players lining up on a zero nose and coming at you. He will learn on the first play of the game what this series means. And you will see if Ole Miss can figure that out, they have a chance to move the ball. Mississippi State actually did a pretty good job against their offense last year. Now, there was no Elijah Moore out there. There was injuries all over the place. There was a healthy Braylon Sanders because that long play happened. So no Kenny Yeboah last year. So that kind of helped Mississippi State figure out what was going on defensively. This year will be a little bit different. This year will be the opposite of that, honestly. Jonathan Mingo is going to go in that game. I expect him to play a little bit. And whenever that happens, the first thing that happens when Jonathan Mingo plays is the hitch game becomes a factor. It also means that Emmanuel Forbes can't shadow a receiver if we have Jonathan Mingo, Dontario Drummond, and Braylon Sanders on the field at the same time. So it's going to kind of position lock him, for a lack of a better word. And you will see a hitch game, you will see a physical game, and a physical presence of our wide receivers when you have Dontario and Jonathan on the field at the same time. I think it's going to open some stuff up. And before early in the season, when you had those three kicking at the highest cylinders, doing everything you do, clicking on all cylinders. Casey Kelly was not healthy and back yet. So if all three of those on the field with Casey Kelly, you will actually finally see what was projected to be our offense in the offseason. Now, it'll be interesting to see. People, they really like Casey Kelly at tight end. They just really do. And he's been a good player and he's been a weapon. But you will see him have a greater role in the offense whenever they have to focus and he becomes the fourth or fifth option that they're paying attention to on defense. You will see him being schemed to do certain things. You'll see him run behind the linebackers in the RPO game with Dontario Drummond underneath them and things like that. This offense, when it's clicking, is designed to torture linebackers. They can't be right. And finally, this offense is going to get semi back to the place where they can do that. So look at the linebacker game. If the Mississippi State linebackers are having a good day, that's probably a bad thing and a good thing for the Mississippi State offense. I'm expecting a fairly low-scoring game. I put this game at 24-20 Ole Miss in this game. I think Ole Miss has a better team, and if Ole Miss plays clean in this game, they would probably win by a couple of touchdowns. But I've seen enough of these games to realize that teams don't play clean in these games. So understand it's going to be tight because what's going to happen is Mississippi State is going to come out defensively chippy against our offense. Our offense is going to have immense poise between all that noise and everything that's going on the field. Because eventually, and it always happens, you want to stay above it. You absolutely want to stay above what's going on. But eventually, Ole Miss will drop down a little bit to their level and start behaving in a manner to matches that intensity and that chippiness. Because, honestly, it's the easiest thing to do. And whenever that happens, it becomes an even game. You know, that expression, never get in fight with a fool because they will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. I'm not calling Mississippi State fools or anything like that, but it's a similar type principle. They need this game to be sloppy. They are, Mississippi State is 55th in the country in scoring defense. Ole Miss is 60th. The narrative is Ole Miss has an awful defense and State has a decent defense. Yet it's 5 places separating the two in scoring defense. They've played essentially the same schedule. Ole Miss probably has played a little bit better one because of Louisville and Austin Peay was better in Tennessee State and things like that. Ole Miss probably has played a better schedule going to this game. But Ole Miss is 60th in the nation in defense. State is 55th. One is viewed as decent. One is viewed as awful. So that tells you a little bit about what narrative. Oh, happy Thanksgiving, Stacy. Thanks for watching today. I know you got some stuff going on, but I do appreciate it, brother. So that is our preview. Like I said, I'm predicting Ole Miss to win the game 24-20. If Ole Miss doesn't win the game, you can drop us down in the comment section and let us know how much of an idiot I am for picking that 24-20 score. But I mentioned while I was talking that I've seen a lot of these games. And I have seen a lot of these games. The first Ole Miss State game that I attended was in 1982. Emory Ballard beat Steve Salone in his last game, like 27-10 or something like that. That was my first game. I went to that game when I was 5 years old. So if y'all want to do math, y'all can figure that out. The next game that I went to in the Egg Bowl series was the Immaculate Deflection game, the 1983 game. This is the game where I became an Ole Miss fan for life. If you want to go to YouTube and see the Immaculate Deflection, just search Immaculate Deflection Ole Miss and it will immediately pop up. It's on there like 4 times. And you will see a field goal from 27 yards out that's 7 yards longer than an extra point. Go up, rise up, and the wind knock it down probably within 3 yards of getting to the goalpost. I've never seen anything like it. The Mississippi State fans all stood up and started cheering because they were going to win the game. Just loud. There's an eruption on half the stadium because this was in Jackson at the time. And then when the wind blew it down, you saw the Ole Miss people stand up and cheer about it. And it was an incredible scene. If I would recommend, even if you're Ole Miss fans or not Ole Miss fans, if we have people on the Tide Talk podcast channel or the DGD podcast channel, Believe in Georgia Dogs channel, watch that highlight because it's just bizarre. And it's something that you will never see in football. And that was, 38 years ago at this point. And it's worth the watch. But we always joke about that. That was the day that God declared his rooting interest in the Ole Miss Rebels in that game. And then, and also in that, before that immaculate deflection happened, and that's all we talk about in that 83 game, Timmy Moffitt returned a punt for a touchdown on a punt block where Ole Miss sent 10 players. Nobody back to block at all. And Timmy Moffitt took it to the house. It was just a weird game, man. It was just an absolutely weird game. The Emory is a memory game. I remember that specifically a couple years later. I think that was 85. Rocky Felker got in for Mississippi State in the late 80s. Like, Billy Brewer just owned that series. Just absolutely owned that series because he got in with what this means. I mean, he played underdog and all of this back and forth, but he understood what the rivalry meant. And it wasn't necessarily any type of a toxic thing. It was just an importance of the rivalry. It was just, it is what it is, type situation. Now, in the 90s, Jackie Sherrill came in and they moved back to campus. And it's been back on campus for, I think this is 30 years, honestly. So it's been back on campus for 30 years. So that's 15 in Oxford, 15 in Starkville. And it's been a remarkably even series since it's done that. Ole Miss dominated Jackson. If Mississippi State, looking back at the benefit of hindsight, should never play another game in Jackson because they just got rolled in Jackson from pretty consistently. But the reason is Jackson was a 60,000 seat stadium. Both Ole Miss and Starkville, which is above 60 now, was down in the 30s back then. So Ole Miss and State played their big games in Jackson. But in 91, it moved back to campus in Starkville. I think Jackie Sherrill came in. So it kind of coincided with the arrival of Jackie Sherrill. And that 10-year period, it really laid the foundation for what is going to be an intense rivalry. Sherrill understood, like Brewer did, how important this rivalry was. And the first couple of years, before Brewer got fired and got run out of town for the NCAA stuff, it was a war. It was an absolute war. The 92 game, the stand. Everybody is going to remember the stand. I think State had 11 plays inside the 5-yard line and couldn't get in the end zone in a 17-10 loss. Absolutely amazing stuff. Chad Brown going off. Rushall's quarterback, and that was a Joe Lee Dunn defense team. And I think 92 Ole Miss led the nation in defense. And that went through at 93. And then in 94, it all kind of fell apart. Joey Dunn was the interim coach, and Ole Miss actually went with Tommy Tuberville. Joey Dunn skedaddled and ended up on Jackie Sherrill's staff. So that 3-3-5 defense that Zach Arnett is basically a descendant of came from Joey Dunn in those early games in the 90s and the early 2000s. Zach Arnett is playing heavily off of those games. But Joey Dunn, rest in peace, brought all of that into this rivalry. And the fact that he went from one to the other, it became a little bit difficult. I remember Dew Innocent running for 240 yards in Starkville in 95, Tuberville's first game. I remember Romero, or Deuce to Romero, the throwback pass in 2000. Very well. For whatever reason, we talked about it on Talking Ball this week. A game that stands out to me, not necessarily because of the score, was the 2003 game. Maybe because it was some kind of validation for the season. Ole Miss goes 7-1. I remember the Tremaine Turner touchdown, but as Bill Flowers talked about on Talking Ball earlier this week, Chad Pilcher is the guy that had possibly the greatest crackback block in the history of punt returns happened in that game. Whenever you hear about decleaters, this is the next level up. The top of the helmet was the first thing that hit the ground of the Mississippi State player. It was an unbelievable hit, unbelievable block, and I definitely remember that. I remember the 2008 game with 10 sacks and just feeling sorry for the Mississippi State quarterbacks because they had to deal with that D-line over and over and over again. I remember 2009, and this started a new era because Mississippi State got Ole Miss in Starkville. That was the Shahad Circuits catch in that game. And State went on to win 3 in a row, but Dan Mullen brought importance like Jackie Sherrill did to that game. And it was the beginning of this thing becoming a very toxic relationship. And as we saw in Florida, they fired Dan Mullen basically for his off-field way of acting more than his on-field stuff. So whenever you're winning, it worked whenever you were at State, and they had fun with that 3-game winning streak. When Hugh Freeze got there, they really had a hard time dealing with that. Hugh Freeze, the 2014 game where State comes in maybe number 3 or number 4 in the country in the playoff rankings, and Ole Miss just takes it to them. The 2015 game where Chad Kelly just balls out early in the game, and Ole Miss goes to the Sugar Bowl, another confirmation type game like that Eli game. Those have all happened in Starkville, by the way. No Sugar Bowl clinching victory, to my knowledge, has happened. Has happened in Oxford. It all happens in Starkville for whatever reason, any bowl game. And then you have the piss and the miss, that started everything, and all this coaching carousel moving all around, where everybody really started paying attention to this game. And people talk about they're only watching this game because they're there to see a sideshow, or they're laughing at you, or whatever is going on. Who cares? They're watching. They're becoming relevant. Somewhere there's a 5-year-old watching this game because mom and dad wanted to tune in to watch the Circus Sideshow, where a lifelong bond is made. This is the type game that can get it. So who cares if any type of Circus Sideshow? This is one of the top 2 or 3 most intense rivalries in the country. It doesn't matter how good they are. It just is what it is. And enjoy it. Too many cases in Mississippi, in both fan bases, they dread losing it more than wanting to win it. And it's because they talked all kinds of trash during the year, and they're worried about tomorrow running into those people, whether they're out in town or whatever's going on. It's all because of that trash talk. So that's the reason, honestly, I don't talk trash to anybody. I just root hard for Ole Miss and everything they do. Root against whoever they're playing for 3 hours, and after that game is over, I just throw it away. It is not a 365-day-a-year type game for me, because I'm not living in the middle of it. And even when I did live in Mississippi, which I've spent half my life in Mississippi. I went to high school in Simpson County, graduated from Ole Miss. I have never been a trash talker. So the Ole Miss State game never really reached a level to where it was really awful for me, because I'd never had a piper to pay whenever it didn't go well. Hey, Lynn, congratulations on Austin, Texas. Love Austin, Texas. That's a great place to visit. It should be a lot of fun tonight, hotty toddy. But this being Thanksgiving, and this being everything's going on, I'm thankful for this game. Most of all, I'm thankful for this game. And that's regardless of results. Because this game, forever, since Vaught left, provided meaning to an end of a season that was honestly mediocre in the 70s, 80s, and even parts of the 90s. Coach Orgeron and Coach Kroom had a little bit of lull at about the same time in the mid-2000s. But when they came out of that, they figured out what they wanted to do, and they figured out what they were, both Ole Miss and State. And games have become really, really competitive. And because of that, it's just a lot of fun. And like I said earlier, if Ole Miss can come out and play clean and just play their game, they're going to win the game fairly handily. If this turns into a sloppy affair, which State is hoping it does, it's advantage State in this situation. With the rain coming through and everything, who knows how that's going to affect the air raid? Who knows if it's going to rain during the game? Who knows what's going to happen there? But it should be fun to watch. It's people watching the game just dialed in on every single play. That is what makes this game special. It's not the trash talking that happens on Friday. It's not worrying about anything that's going on. Not even the go to hell Ole Miss or go to hell State that happens in mid-April. What makes this game special is every play. Every single play, you are going to be leaned forward in your chair, rooting with everything you have that your team gets the result. And that is what makes the Eggs Bowl special, because the players feel this. This is more of a players' rivalry than even the Iron Bowl. This is the most potential players' rivalry in all of college football, to where players on both sides genuinely don't like the other. I mean, it's interesting. Anyway, I am going to give you a couple minutes back, okay? Thank you very much for spending time with me on your Thanksgiving. Enjoy the game tonight, and have fun in all your Thanksgiving deals today, and have fun. And I'll be back tomorrow for a little post game, one way or another, talking about the Ole Miss and State. So you can count on a Friday show as well, and we're going to get ready for the countdown because we're almost there. After the show tomorrow, we'll have 4 more podcasts left. You can see us on the Locked On channel. It's on the YouTube page. It's linked. You can go through and subscribe, and you can be there from the beginning. So thank you very much for watching. I'm Stephen Willis. Egg Bowl Day, Thanksgiving Day, hotty toddy.